Hey everybody, welcome to G4G on YouTube. I'm your host, Napalm Dawn. Today's background soundtrack is brought to you by the Wrath of the Lich King OST. And today we are going into part 4 of the character levels of Marvel characters compared to Marvel Avengers Alliance. So we've done Tacticians, Blasters, and Bruisers, and today we are on the Scrappers. And so the purpose of this video is basically, or the series of videos, is I'm going to be comparing the power levels or the usefulness of characters throughout several Marvel games and using Marvel Avengers Alliance as the basis. So the games in question are Marvel Avengers Alliance, Marvel Future Fight, and Marvel Strike Force. There will be some nods to Marvel Battle Lines, Marvel Heroes, and Contest of Champions. But Contest of Champions kind of doesn't fit because it's your own skill at that one. I mean, I'm sure there are characters stronger than others, but it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter thing, whereas these actually have legitimate strengths and weaknesses beyond the person controlling them. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Today, we are actually going to use Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux Alpha 3 to begin going through some of these. Unfortunately, I cannot sort by scrappers. I cannot sort by anything over here, so I'm going to have to click through to get to where I want to go. But, hey, that's pretty cool because at least it's something, and it's something I haven't been able to incorporate in the other videos because the character selection was limited. So first we can see Angela. And we'll use this as the order that, so it's going to be alphabetical order through the scrappers. So we have Angela. Now I first encountered Angela in a mobile game based on the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I didn't know who she was. And I began to see her appearing in games. Now, she's never really had like a movie or anything, but she tends to generally have a pretty cool sprite wherever she goes. Marvel Future Fight's got a few different looks for her, but she's usually represented as this one with the collar whips or the hair whips and everything, and this kind of cool set of blades that she's got. So she is in Marvel Avengers Alliance. She is in Marvel Future Fight. And that's about it for what I can think of for her. She was in that Guardians of the Galaxy game that really nobody knew much about. They were out on a field and you dragged the line from them to who you wanted them to attack. Similar to like Final Fantasy XII's combat. It was a Ultimate Weapon Guardians of the Galaxy, the Ultimate Weapon or something like that. Honestly, where she's at her strongest is Marvel Avengers Alliance. She had really cool abilities. She had some really fun animations and everything, and sadly, oh my god, wow. Okay, that's a little buggy. Unfortunately, I can't get to see her ability names over here, but she had a pretty cool moveset, and she was fun with bleed teams and slashing teams. And she was, she's capable of dishing out some punishment. I think compared to her Marvel Future Fight, she wins in Marvel Avengers Alliance. Avalanche, or as some people called him, Tampon Man, because he did kind of look like that. He really is only represented in Marvel Avengers Alliance. I cannot say that I have seen Tampon Man in any other games, and that's because of him being formerly a villain and part of the Brotherhood of Mutants. A lot of the other games just kind of don't dip into the evil characters as much, except for Marvel Future Fight. That being said, I don't even think he was in Marvel Battle Lines as a card, because he's a mutant, and Marvel Battle Lines really is not dealing with mutants right now. Up next, we have Blade. So Blade has definitely been in several games. He is in Future Fight. He's a card in Marvel Battle Lines. I don't think he was in Marvel Heroes. And he is in Contest of Champions. I think he's at his strongest in Marvel Future Fight. He actually, excuse me, Marvel Avengers Alliance. Marvel Future Fight is kind of nowhere. In Marvel Avengers Alliance, he enjoyed a period of time where he was massively meta, and that was Spitfire and Blade when he was doing the go first and get lots of action stuff. So if we were to take a look at him, I can show you the ISO where he was just really, really nuts. I believe it was Lambent. Yes, it's this Lambent augmented ISO 8. So that one was pretty solid about being magic and ethereal with the eternal bleeding, but All Nighter was the really, really strong one, which gave him quickening at the beginning of combat. Quickening, I believe, I gotta check what exactly it said that it was. Infused with the mortal strength of a vampire, increasing accuracy, attack, defense, and evasion. And basically, if I remember correctly, he just started joining in on attacks, and he would go early, and Spitfire would go early. It was pretty vicious for some time, and I distinctly remember Kingfisher doing an anti-Blade and Spitfire video at the time because of how rough it was. And I think it was something that was a little overtuned and got nerfed. So Blade clearly wins in Marvel Avengers Alliance. So Angela and Blade so far are bringing the shit home for MAA. Chase isn't in any other games, although he is in the Runaways show on Hulu. He is not represented as having old lace in the show. It's actually Gert who has it. Chase came across parents' inventions, X-ray goggles, fistigods, while later girlfriend died in his arms twice. So maybe this is something that's going to happen, spoiler alert, in Runaways, but he's represented here as having old lace because we never got Gert in the game. He's only here, so obviously he wins, and he was an interesting character, and he was one of the first things that I ever streamed on Twitch. I knew I was going to earn him over a weekend, so I was streaming my last couple of tasks to get Chase Stein. It was one of the first things I ever streamed. Daredevil is, of course, in multiple games because he's part of the MCU, not the Mutant Universe, so he shows up everywhere. He is in Future Fight, he's in Avengers Alliance, he is in Marvel Battle Lines. I think he's in Marvel Battle Lines, and he's also in Marvel Strike Force. He is a huge part of the Defenders team in Marvel Strike Force, and he gets a lot of bonuses and gives bonuses to other Defenders when they're all Defenders on there. He was pretty solid in Marvel Avengers Alliance once his sweatsuit came out. I do believe Pot Kettle Black always really liked the original uniform of him and made a good case for him being very good. However, it was Sweats Devil where Daredevil crept back up into the mainstream from basic obscurity. And he also had an infiltrator version which made him pretty nasty with the pre-firing infiltrator ISO. Even though he's good in Marvel Strike Force as part of being an all Defenders team, I have to say his longevity really belongs to Marvel Avengers Alliance. I think he was at his best here. You tended to use him as a beginner, similar to Strike Force, but then his abilities were just really solid, and if you knew how to make a team around his Snap Kick ISO, the one that caused Reckless Rage, Daredevil was pretty good. He is still very good at Marvel Strike Force, but mostly only when he's on a Defenders team. Deadpool. Deadpool, you pretty much for a while did not see outside of Marvel Avengers Alliance because he belonged on the mutant side. He was in Marvel Heroes with a tremendous amount of costumes, including Pirate Deadpool, Lady Deadpool with the blonde ponytail, no mask variant Deadpool with the cancer face and some goggles. So he was really all over Marvel Heroes, but you kind of didn't see him in too many places. However, recently he was added to Marvel Future Fight as a speed character, and he was also added to Marvel Strike Force as having some pretty good synergy with mercenaries. And he's a pretty solid character there. That all being said, I really have to give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance. Deadpool was simply despised for a long, long period of time when it came to PvP. And even though his AI was fairly good, you could actually jack his AI up. If you made it so that he couldn't melee on his first turn, he wouldn't try to do any of the other Deadpool moves, he would recharge. Which means his AI was really hard-coded to go 1, 2, 3, potentially 4. And you knew damn well if he got all 3 of these off, you were shitting your pants to see if Happy to See You came out. Happy to See was probably one of the most ridiculously hard-hitting abilities in the entire game, so I really do have to give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance as to where Deadpool is at his best. Drax. So Drax was very, very popular when the Guardians of the Galaxy heroes were coming out, especially the movie costumes. Even though he started as a Scrapper, he would eventually get a movie outfit that gave him Bruiser and Scrapper. And he was pretty solid with all of the bleeds that he was doing. He is in Marvel Strike Force, and he is in Marvel Battle Alliance is what's called a grower card. Basically, every round that he's out on the field, he grows more and more angry, so he's more buff at the thought of Thanos. He gains hit points and defense. In Marvel Avengers Alliance, he was known for bleeds. And in Marvel Strike Force, he is considered a tank. In Marvel Strike Force, he is one of the few characters that starts off with a taunt rather than having to wait to activate the taunt. That makes the Marvel Strike Force iteration of him very strong. It's a close one, but I do believe I have to give this one over to Strike Force simply because he's a somewhat unique tank, and he also does drain, so when he does damage, he heals up a certain amount of hit points from doing it. He was good in Marvel Avengers Alliance, especially when paired with certain people like Gamora, and he was a little tough to kill and kind of caused some annoyances, but I have to give it to Strike Force because of the on-spawn taunting. So up next is Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was in Marvel Avengers Alliance. He is not in Strike Force. He is in Future Fight. He was in Marvel Heroes. And I can't recall if he is a card in Marvel Battle Lines. Out of all the games we have seen Ghost Rider in, which is a reasonable amount, especially towards later outfits for him, including the Worthy and also his pretty good ISOs that he had, I'd have to say he wins in Marvel Avengers Alliance. He is pretty good in Marvel Future Fight. He's considered a reasonable universal hero. However, his Infinity Warps variant, which is a combination of Ghost Rider and Black Panther, clearly outclasses any of the Ghost Riders in Marvel Future Fight. And since it's a separate character, I really can't consider that a win for him over there. His moves in Marvel Avengers Alliance were fun, especially Burnout and the Damnation Chains, the way that the motorcycle rears back and you have the motorcycle roar and he whips the chains. I think he really is at his best in Marvel Avengers Alliance. Greythoth was not really anywhere. Nobody concerned themselves with Greythoth too much. Hellstrom won down the stretch, and even a little bit of Skrin. I think it was Skrin that She-Hulk turned into. But Black Knight and Damian were the ones who won with the later Worthy. I don't really think anybody used Greythoth to any good effect over there, but I will have to say classic Ghost Rider pretty much nails it for Marvel Avengers Alliance being where he is at his strongest. Hellcat does not show up in any other game, unfortunately. Hogun and other Warriors 3 do. They are available in Marvel Future Fight, but they are not in Marvel Strike Force, even though Thor is. Hogun really wins it in Marvel Avengers Alliance. He's not anywhere in Future Fight, but he was an absolute beast when it came to Marvel Avengers Alliance. He teamed up well with Warriors 3, or with the Agent if he was using the Tankard, and in all honesty, the combination of Meteor Smash and Wind Up Swing, along with his Elixir of Recovery, if you could make it a quick action, he was just a beast. I loved Hogun. I built a lot of teams around Hogun, including Rocket Raccoon and Union Jack and Spit Gun, which was Spitfire and Hogun. Hogun was extremely underrated. He worked great on group bosses. He was great in PvP. And he was great in PvE content. So to me, hands down, he wins in Marvel Avengers Alliance. And both of his forms were extremely, well, now, the Scrapper side of him was just as useful as the Infiltrator side. Our boy Iron Fist. Man, Iron Fist is original hero in Marvel Avengers Alliance. One that people probably picked to unlock as early as they could. He's solid for newbies in Marvel Avengers Alliance. One of my early videos was Team Up the Irons, which is an Iron Maiden reference to, but it included Iron Fist and Iron Man. However, it's really Hafe, or the Heroic Age Iron Fist, where Iron Fist absolutely shone. You give him the hidden potential with Heart of the Shulao, and Iron Fist was incredible. Not only could he get it done on offense with the White Hot Iron Fist, he was a major team support in Praying Lotus. He was so strong, he had to get nerfed, and he got nerfed into the ground twice. Combo Breaker was nerfed, and then the Heart of the Shulao combo going into Praying Lotus was unfortunately nerfed too. It took our beloved white and yellow Crusader and made him an absolute turd, which is really a shame because he was so powerful. He is in Marvel Future Fight, and he was considered a very good combat hero for some time, but he's faded very quickly. And he's in Strike Force. He's considered trash until people realize that Defender teams are really good, and he gets stuck on Defender teams, and he boosts them incredibly. But the white suit really wins it for him in Marvel Avengers Alliance. Kazar is nowhere. Kamala Khan is in several games. She is in Marvel Strike Force as Miss Marvel. She is in Marvel Future Fight. And she is a somewhat decent card in Marvel Battle Lines. She really didn't amount to much in Marvel Avengers Alliance. It was very interesting to see Lockjaw come in, and she had some fun abilities and some ISOs, but really where she wins to me is Marvel Strike Force, as she really enables a certain set of heroes called Hero Controllers to be that much stronger. She joins in on their attacks, and she has them join in on hers, so if you build a team around her in Strike Force, she's very good. She wasn't anywhere in MAA. Karnak, who to me reminds me of Leader from Hulk and Iron Man, but obviously Karnak is a good guy. Marvel Avengers Alliance is really only where he is, other than Marvel Contest of Champions. He is in Future Fight. Nobody uses him. Night America was pretty much exclusively MAA. Luke Cage. So Luke Cage was considered one of the eternal helideck or helicarrier pilots when it came to Marvel Avengers Alliance. His default suit really amounted to nothing. It wasn't until he started building up some ISOs and then eventually got his worthy outfit that Luke Cage stopped being one of the pilots and actually did something for a change. He's in Future Fight, and he's really a nowhere hero except for the fact that he does physical reflection, so people beat themselves up by trying to beat up Luke Cage. He isn't Strike Force. He was considered a trash tier tank that newbies used because he was easy to get, And now he's enjoying a lot of popularity when he is on a Defenders team. However, that requires basically building a team around the Defenders. Clearly, when you take the Worthy outfit into consideration, Marvel Avengers Alliance is where Luke was at his best. If you want to discount Worthy uniforms, I could probably say it goes to Strike Force just a little bit, but I still think it should belong to Marvel Avengers Alliance. His later ISOs really did help him out. Magic. Magic was always one of my favorite characters when it came to Marvel Avengers Alliance. Not because she's blonde or female or something like that. She had cool animations. She had cool sounds to her abilities. Everything about using magic in combat was fun. The sword looked cool. I like this outfit better than the New Mutants one, to be honest. And I always am weirded out by the Bionic Colossus arm over there. I don't know the background on it, but her ability to use magic, be a scrapper, get the really, really hard-hitting Soul Flare, Unleash Hell, Stepping Disc. She was just so much fun in Marvel Avengers Alliance. She was in Marvel Heroes, and one of the characters that I took up to level 60, and they really did a good job with her in Marvel Heroes. She's also in Marvel Future Fight as a blaster, and she's pretty good. Gotta give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance, though. OG Magic and MAA, I think, is where it's at, but she has close competition in other games. Mantis pretty much was only in MAA, but then showed up in Future Fight, and she has now shown up in Strike Force this week. And I do believe it's this bellhop looking uniform. She appeared towards the end of MAA, so it's really hard to have gotten a read on her since she was somewhat new, but not the newest. She was pretty good when the Psychic set was around, and people did use Mantis in PvP. She's in Marvel Future Fight as a blaster that, along with Enchantress, is allowed to break the game and do things to bosses and characters with immunity that others can't. And Strike Force, she's too new. I can't pass judgment there. I'm gonna have to say Future Fight. She is a good blaster for people, and she's good for those starting out doing bosses, world bosses, ultimate bosses. She's pretty obnoxious in PvP. I have to give it to Marvel Future Fight. Omega Sentinel, sadly, being mutant related, was only in Marvel Avengers Alliance. Fun character, little weak, used her in PvP for some time, great debuffs, and of course the whole class switching thing once she turned 15 was amazing. Quicksilver. This guy right here. Back from the past with a huge ass punch in your face that probably knocked out one of your characters. His blue suit, as some people called it, Bisquick, because it was abbreviated at BSQS, we call it Bisquick, really, really made a splash when it came to Marvel Avengers Alliance. Made a splash in PvP with Null, with Luke, with Juggernaut, with the agent running some melee items like the boot, the steps of Shu Lao, and everything. He is in Marvel Future Fight. He is not in any of the other games currently. In Future Fight, he was King of Speed for a little while. He's been replaced by Luna, being the higher powered speed character right now. But I don't think Quicksilver's too far behind. Even with that, and even as shit as the Avengers Age of Ultron Quicksilver was, which maybe you liked him, but I hated how he looked, and I didn't like his kit. Bisquick definitely wins in Marvel Avengers Alliance, hands down. He literally changed the landscape against infiltrators. The moment Quicksilver hit the game, you had to stop running infiltrators in PvP, otherwise you were going to lose. Anybody who could single-handedly change the face of PvP, that's the game where they win. So clearly Marvel Avengers Alliance on that one. Up next we have Sabretooth. He is a Marvel Strike Force. He's okay over there, but really where he wins is Marvel Avengers Alliance. He was very good with the bleeds. The tantrum was fun. He teamed up very, very well when a bleed meta was good, like Ares and Wolverines. Gotta give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance. Shatterstar, despite dying in the Deadpool 2 movie, is really only in Marvel Avengers Alliance and nowhere else. Sif is in a few games. She is in Marvel Future Fight. She is a card in Marvel Battle Lines. She is a nothing character in Marvel Future Fight. So she wins in Marvel Avengers Alliance, especially if you used the movie suit. However, graphically, those legs, those thighs will crush a watermelon. I preferred the classic Sif just because of the sprite, but the movie Sif is a little better. Spider-Woman, along with Luke Cage, was considered a nowhere character for a very, very long time. She had nothing going good for her until Breaker of the Stone came around, and then she also gained some ISOs that really, really helped her out, even as just Spider-Woman. She isn't really represented in too many other games, although she is in Marvel Battle Lines. When you take into account the Worthy uniform, obviously it's Marvel Avengers Alliance. It can't be anything else other than that. Spider-Man 2099 is in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and he also is in Marvel Future Fight. He's considered a fairly good character in Marvel Future Fight, but in Marvel Avengers Alliance, I think he was at his strongest, and I really, really liked his kit in this game at a time in which we got Miles and Superior, and Miles I thought was absolutely garbage. Superior was a little better. Here comes Spider-Man 2099, perhaps the best Spider in the game behind Spider-Man Noir. Spitfire, as good as she was in Marvel Avengers Alliance, is only in Marvel Avengers Alliance. She's not in any others, and she basically replaced Quicksilver and added the ability to do bleeds, regeneration, you name it. Squirrel Girl is in a few games. Even though she was considered a mutant, Marvel tried to retcon her into not being a mutant. She is a card, a very good card in Marvel Battle Lines. She is not in Strike Force, but she is in Future Fight as a speed character. She doesn't quite bring it home in Future Fight, so I'm going to have to give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance, especially when you consider the ISOs that she got and the eventual Howard cosplay. She was in Marvel Heroes, and some people said she was actually a lot of fun, but she was tough to play. You had to be a good player to use her. J-Thor, as some people called her, Thor Jane, Jane Thor, J-Thor, whatever you want to call her, Jane Thor has been in a few games. She was in Marvel Avengers Alliance, she is in Marvel Future Fight, and she was a costume for Thor in Marvel Heroes. She doesn't really do much of anything in Marvel Future Fight, and she could have had some good team-ups in the electricity-related meta here in Marvel Avengers Alliance, so it's close because she doesn't do a super good job everywhere she's at. She's kind of middle of the road. I'm going to have to give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance. You could kind of build a team around the kit that J-Thor could bring to this game, which for some reason I'm having trouble finding her. I think I just shot past her the last, or maybe not. Oh, there she is. She had okay abilities and everything like that, so I gotta give it to Marvel Avengers Alliance. Union Jack, master of the follow-ups and counters that he was, and great initiator for those teams. He is in no other game, and that's always disappointed me, as I always absolutely loved Union Jack's kit. And I did a video series on teaming up Union Jack with several different characters, including Hogun and Rocket Raccoon, Spider-Man Noir. Yeah, Union Jack was really strong, especially when you built teams around what he could do, and he had some decent ISOs. And last but not least, we're going to have Wolverine. So Wolverine is, of course, one of the original characters of Marvel Avengers Alliance, and one of the earliest mutants that we got to deal with in the game. His real power level belonged to the brown and tan suit when he appeared in a tremendous amount of PvP, and he just constantly caused bleeds. And even if you got rid of them, you were probably dealing with more again. He had a stealthy hit, which was pretty solid. He buffed bleeds damage and everything. He was good. He wasn't amazing, but he was good. Uncanny X-Force Wolverine just doesn't really bring home the bacon anywhere. He had team-ups with other ones, but the Don't Die on Me bub was not one of the best Uncanny X-Force team-up bonuses that you could have. Even though he had a mild amount of longevity in Marvel Avengers Alliance and was certainly good for later noobs and early mid-tier players, and the bleeds were fun, he wins when it comes to Marvel Future Fight. He is a Marvel Strike Force, but he's considered mid-tier. In Marvel Future Fight, he's one of the characters that sits atop Hero Scrapper. He is the Hero Scrapper meta, and he has been for some time. His regeneration makes him nearly invincible, and his moves keep him out of the way of enemy attacks for the most part. So, despite the fact that he just kind of chugged along in Marvel Avengers Alliance and never either took off and never really got shit on, I have to give it to Future Fight. So there you go, guys. There is the Scrappers for part 4 of comparing Marvel Avengers Alliance characters to their other game counterparts. That will leave Infiltrators and Generalists left. And Scrappers is one of the classes I was looking forward to, because there's definitely a lot of fun characters in here. And then there's also a lot of waste, like Luke Cage and Spider-Woman. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about what I discussed down below, and if you disagree with the power levels of where I have some of the characters ranked, you know, which game I think they're the best at, worst at, so on and so forth. Also, Wolverine was another one of those characters of Marvel Heroes that had a tremendous amount of costumes from top to bottom, including a really cool one called Fear Itself. So, that's it for me, guys. Signing off. Peace out, everybody.